Hey there, 944 V8 fans. Just doing a little bit of work today on this here thing. If you want to see what's been going on with the whole project, click the Stoker Don icon and go to my channel, look at playlists, because this is part of the Living with the LS Swapped Porsche 944 playlist. But before we ever did that, we did the full 944 plus 6-liter V8 playlist, which is like 150 or 60 videos of me bumbling around trying to get this thing all put together like it is now. So that being said, you might remember from the last video we had talked a little bit about sway bar mounting. And so right now I'm trying to sort out, see if we have the right hardware here. This is the Lindsay Racing front sway bar mount here. And these two bolts, about the spacer, these two bolts go into the frame where the stock sway bar mount goes. This one is designed to go right in the front crossmember mount. And being that this is a V8 car, you have 1/2-inch spacers spacing the crossmember down so that the engine is low enough to clear the hood. And this creates a little problem for the sway bar mount because you have to use this to space the sway bar mount down. This is a whole lot thicker than the stock sway bar mount, so they give you longer bolts, which are not long enough if you have the 1/2-inch spacer. So I found some bolts that'll work and for this, but I'm not 100% sure about this. I mean, these might actually be long enough. This is stock length, and these are, a good 1/2 inch longer. So I don't know. We're gonna see. If not, we're gonna have to source some big bolts that are long enough to go through this, through the cross member, and through the cross member spacer. And we also got these nice rear sway bar drop links from Lindsay Racing. So this is where it connects onto the control arm. It's dropped below the control arm, and there's rubber bushing here and a rubber bushing on top of here that fits in a cup in the control arm. But on the chassis, as you can see, it's just this flimsy, little more than sheet metal bracket that holds it, and it will move forward and backward. I mean, there's nothing really to stop it. It's just, a thin piece of metal that's bolted in with those two bolts. So what that big fat Lindsay Racing mount does is, a little more light on the subject here, is takes up this, you remove this and it takes up this whole area in here, and the back part connects onto that cross member bolt. And as you can see, there's the 1/2-inch shim above the cross member for our V8 conversion. So what we're going to do right now is pull this stuff off, drop the sway bar down, pull that bolt out, put one of them mounts up in here, and see how well it works. Well, we've got a test fit in there. These two guys are okay. They look pretty good. But our big, long, fine thread metric bolt is a little short. It seems like it's only engaging probably 3 or 4 threads, and that's probably not enough to hold the engine and the front control arms and now the load from this sway bar. So we'll see if we can find a longer bolt, one for each side. All right, so I went to the hardware store to try and find a bolt that's longer than this. Turns out this is a 12 millimeter 1.5 thread pitch, which is what's used on some later 944s for the front cross member. Some of them are earlier ones, and I think most of the other ones through production are the coarser thread, which is 1.25, I believe, 100 millimeters long. And this is about a half an inch shorter than we want. And it turns out the biggest bolt they had in that category, my hardware store is pretty good, and I was surprised. They actually had this one 100 millimeters long, and nothing any longer. So what we did was, and this is, I'll say this up front, this is something you should never ever do on a suspension component. We're going to do it just for today to get this thing together. And we're going to order a bolt. I guess I'll have to figure out what it is, but something that's about a half inch longer than 100 millimeters, whatever that works out to be. We'll order a couple of those bolts, but for today, just to get this thing in there to see how things fit and if it's going to all work right with the V8 spacers and everything, bought 12 millimeter by 1.5 stick of all thread. So I have this marked at 1 3/4 inches. We'll chop it there, clean up the threads, and make another one just like it, and we'll stick it in there, and we'll at least know if the stuff fits right. All right, we're rocking along here. We got our, so we can get my hand in here, our all thread piece in here, welded a nut on the piece of all thread to get it up in there in our, through our new sway bar mount and our cross member and our 1/4 inch or half inch spacer for the V8 kit. And the 2 bolts to hold this in there are on there. Got the old sway bar stuff off of the sway bar. All right, let's see how we did here. So got both sides done. So with that on there, the polyurethane sway bar bushing. These are split, so you just, you know, stick some grease in them, open them up, pop them over the sway bar, bolt them in. Then they have a Zerk fitting to grease later on periodically. That's it. They're in there, all tightened down and everything. And just to recap, this is what we took out. These flimsy, I think this idea of mounting a sway bar like 8 inches down from the frame on this spindly little thing is probably a holdover from the 924 days in the 70s when they decided they want to put a sway bar on it and realized the engine was kind of in the way. And yeah, I'm not sure why, but this was never a good thing, especially when you get the bigger sway bars. Luckily with this one, if we want to go from the 26.8 millimeter bar to the 30 millimeter MO30 bar, all we have to do is buy a 30 millimeter polyurethane bushing. All right, so we got the new Lindsay Racing drop links in there. Turned out that you could reuse the hardware that came with these. These are like rubbery dog bone ones. Lindsay Racing ones are nice hind joint ended adjustable ones. And that's that. We'll get the wheels, tires back on this thing, and take it out for a ride. Well, there you go. Now we just got to take it for a test drive. Hopefully it all stays together and we didn't do anything wrong. Well, so far it doesn't feel that different. We'll stuff it through this section here, right and left real quick, and see what happens. Well, it does stay a little flatter on the front end. Yeah. Well, it definitely corners a little flatter now. I hadn't pushed it to the limit or anything, but it's not got as much body roll as it had before. All right, so that was a little drive in the car. I mean, this thing is really fun. It's crazy fun. It seems to be cornering a little flatter right now. Really have to do something more like, you know, to run it around in a circle or something like that to really see what it does. But yeah, pretty happy so far with the improvements. We'll see if any of this stuff breaks on the front end. Hopefully it doesn't.